The following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to On Oshkosh. We have been gone for a couple of months. We've sort of been on a 2-month hiatus. Dan's been doing some traveling and I've been working on some professional projects that were pretty demanding and time consuming, but we're back and coincidentally we have recently finished our 10th year, so we're going to be talking about Dan's travels tonight. We're going to be recapping some 10 years of shows here. So anyway, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about your travels.
Yeah, I brought snow.
Yeah, you did. You came back, and we're taping this on the 27th of December. We were actually supposed to tape it a week earlier, but it got called off because of the blizzard. The folks here at OCMS wanted to go home early, and we said, we don't blame you. We don't want to come out in this, so it worked out for the best. But you did. You came back just in time for our first huge snowfall. You brought it with you.
I enjoyed every shovelful.
Did you? And did you actually shovel, or did you use a snowblower?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy.
It was heavy, wet snow. It really
Very
was.
wet, yeah. So let's talk about where you were. You traveled, you were gone 2 months.
2 months.
And how many different countries?
Basically 3.
Okay.
Went to Istanbul first. Then I went to Cyprus for 5 weeks, back to Istanbul, then to Denmark to go to Sweden, and then came back to Istanbul and back to Chicago.
Okay. Now, why back to Istanbul? Why not just stay there?
Because we wanted to go to Cyprus.
Couldn't you have spent your time in Istanbul and then gone on to Cyprus?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went to Cyprus.
Yep.
You can't fly from Turkey to Cyprus because the northern 1/3 of Cyprus is now taken over by Turkey. So they wouldn't let you into the southern half. So we had to go to Athens to fly into the country of Cyprus and then back that way.
Okay.
So kind of screwed up.
Yeah, and I think I got three postcards from you, I think. 2 from Cyprus.
Okay.
And it looks beautiful there, and I know what I've seen of Cyprus on TV has been gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, is that pretty standard of that country?
Well, it's full of limestone. It's not a very fertile place, but it has nice beaches, a lot of archaeological things, nice people. So it's a very popular place in the summertime. It gets to be 40 or 45 Celsius in the summer. That's over 100. So the young people who really want sun, they come there in droves.
Wow.
We came kind of at the tail end. We were there 17th or 18th of October. And so it was in the 80s for the rest of October, and then it went down to the 70s in November.
But that's comfortable.
Oh, it's very comfortable.
That's comfortable for me. I love that.
Yeah. And the sun is intoxicating. It really is, you know. So ate like a pig and lost 12 pounds.
How does that work?
A lot of salads. Incredible salads.
Well, we want to talk about food and all that different stuff, but you know, in the 5 years that you've been hosting this show with me, you have done a lot of traveling.
True.
And you guys always kind of go off on your own. You know, most people, young or old, they tend to go with tours, and you see tours advertised a lot, like through the TV stations and stuff. You never have done that. Is there a reason why you just kind of go off on your own?
Yeah, a couple. One is we're cheap. You know, basically we lived away for 2 months at about the cost of 2 or 3 weeks of a tour each.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's much cheaper. Okay. The other reason is sort of just, you know, I don't want to go on a tour with people from my own country. We only met one American in 8 weeks. One. People say, wasn't that really bad? I said, it was really refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just sort of personal. Billy said we have to do a tour pretty soon because we're getting close to the wheelchair stage. Not close, but so we will eventually. But no, it just we research our own trips. I really like Booking.com. You go into Booking.com and you say, I want a place in Istanbul from October whatever to October whatever. I only want to go to a star 2, maybe star 3. So they give you back 3 or 4 options. And then you pick the one, they give you the price, and they said confirmed, and when you get there, they have it. They haven't charged you until you sign it when you're there. But I had really good luck with Booking.com, both in Turkey and in Cyprus.
Okay.
And we were in 2 different places in Cyprus.
You know, do you not ever worry about safety when you're kind of off on your own? And here's why I asked that, Dan, because, you know, when we've traveled out of the country, it's usually been on cruises. And, you know, they say if you're going to do excursions, stick with the excursions that we sort of promote and sponsor because, well, for a lot of reasons. I mean, number one, if your car breaks down or something on your excursion, at least the ship's not going to take off without you because they know and they can communicate with the boat. But I'm sure that safety is another factor involved in there. But, you know, do you ever worry about safety issues when you're kind of doing this on your own?
Only if we're out late at night.
Okay.
Which, as we get older, we don't do much of that.
Yeah.
So, no. Istanbul, incredibly safe. You know, here's a town of a city of 25 million people, and we were in the old section. But I felt really comfortable. Cyprus, they claim, is the safest country in the world. There's no crime in Cyprus. There obviously is some, but very, very little. So, not so much. But we're not out, you know, with the youngsters at midnight till 1 in the morning, you know, so our pace is more safe.
Yeah.
We're older. You could argue, well, you're more vulnerable. I don't know. I think people just kind of leave you alone.
Yeah.
So, yes and no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, you came back at a time when, I mean, there's always a lot of crime, it seems, in this country. Not so much here in our community, but certainly it is affecting communities that you wouldn't think it ever would.
Sure, absolutely.
And you came back at a time when all hell seemed to be breaking loose with a lot of gun violence, masses of people being killed and so forth. You just don't see things like that over there, like where you traveled to?
As far as killings are concerned?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know what their gun laws are over
I
there?
don't have any guns.
Well, there we go. And that's why I guess there's no gun violence then.
no.
Yeah.
It's sort of ironic. We were really out of the mainstream. We were over there during the election. We should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's
but,
on the list.
You know, the first thing we got back was the speculation whether Hillary Clinton was going to run in 2016. I'm thinking, God, you just got rid of 2012. We're going to start 2006. And then the tragedy, the massacre in Connecticut. And then Packer football. I mean, you can't go anywhere. The Northwestern, it's a Packer newspaper for 2 or 3 days a week. And I'm thinking, boy, is this really the culture that we're really interested in?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you're talking about our local paper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, Packer Monday is just, you know, and then Packer Tuesday.
Well, even on their homepage, you know, I don't want to bash them all night, but even on their homepage, you know, they've got this big section that's devoted to the Packers, you know, and obviously there's a market for it. People want to know about it, but, you know, I mean, there are some people for whom they don't really care that much, and they'd rather see some other things.
Right, and there's 2 sports writers in Green Bay that write virtually every day. How would you like to write every day on one topic?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I do what I do.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, so you were there, you were in these other lands when there was an election going on. How do they perceive the United States electoral process? Do they care at all? Was there interest in our
Very
presidential?
much. And,
really?
and they're pretty well informed.
Are they?
Yeah, they get Euronews and BBC in Cyprus.
Okay.
And there's English channels in Istanbul as well.
And why are they so involved and interested and informed about what's going on here?
Well, we're kind of, you know, we're the star of the universe. So
Oh!
they keep track of it. And second, it's related to the economy of the Europeans.
Yeah.
I mean, they're concerned about our thing as well.
Yeah.
And some foreign relation things. The standard question on the election was, who are you supporting? And we would say Obama, and they said, good. You're not supporting the other guy. And they kept referring to Romney as the other guy. No one ever mentioned Romney's name. It was always, quote, the other guy.
Do you think that's because they didn't remember his name, or it's just kind of a...
I don't know.
Mitt is kind of a strange name.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're talking about an oven mitt or a mitten, I mean, that's kind of a strange name.
It is, yeah. I don't know whether they liked Obama for a couple of reasons. One is they really disliked George Bush.
Yeah.
They thought he was a cowboy that didn't have much sense. And he's a president.
George W. or his father?
No, George W.
Okay.
The previous. And he's a man of color, and I think a lot of people over there identify with that.
Yeah.
So not one person said they were for Obama. I mean, for Romney. Everyone for his. And so the day after the election, we're in the eating breakfast, and they're all kind of glued. I eat one. That was important. That was kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it? I mean, obviously you were able to see the presidential election results over there, but it probably wasn't in the mainstream news the way it was here, certainly. No. I bet that was kind of refreshing to get away from all the political ads.
God, yes, you wouldn't believe the calls on my phone when I got home. I should have disconnected my answering thing, but I didn't, you know.
Yeah, believe me, I was getting like 5 and 6 a day toward the end. It really was bad.
We couldn't really get much newspaper. You can get the Financial Times and a British paper, which is kind of a gossip thing, but it's hard. The International Herald Tribune, which is the New York Times European one, but it's really hard to get it. I mean, there are only maybe 5 copies, and they're gone quickly. And they're not expensive. They're like $7, $8.
Yeah.
So I usually pick 1 or 2 days a week. Usually Wednesday is a good day, and maybe the Sunday one. But that's it. But it was mainly just on TV is the only way we got much coverage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that must have been kind of different and yet refreshing in a strange sort of way too.
Yeah. Get away
from. Sort of check out from everything a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Food. You mentioned food. So how did you? Again, you ate all this food, and you lost 12 pounds, and so you were eating a lot of salads.
Yeah. The Rylance secret is we have 3 stages here to lose weight. No, the first is salads. Every meal you get a salad, and it's just a Greek salad. Has feta cheese chunks on top, and then maybe 7 or 8 veggies, green things, beautiful tomatoes, olives, and not little bowls, big bowls. And so every meal, you know, not breakfast obviously, but you would have a salad. A lot of fish, a lot of fruit.
Yep.
The banana, they grow their own bananas, so the bananas and the oranges were just starting to ripen as we left.
Now this is in Cyprus?
This is in Cyprus.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of grilled food, both in Turkey and Cyprus. Grilled pieces of chicken, grilled. If you like lamb, Turkey and Cyprus, we had wonderful lamb. We love lamb, and it's just incredible. And in Turkey, you go to an outside restaurant, and they have little clay pots about this high, and they ask whether you want lamb or chicken or both, and so they put it in this clay pot along with a bunch of vegetables, and then they put it over a little fire, and as it gets hotter, they start to tap the top of it and break it off. And once it's broken off, they just take it and they dump it in that's your main meal on your plate. So it's very warm. Has sort of a taste of the clay pot a little bit, but that's the main way of having your food. So.
Well, that's kind of interesting. You go through a lot of clay pots that way.
They do. Yeah.
But maybe that's one of their main products that they make. Who knows?
I have no idea. Didn't see a coffee pot in 2 months.
Really?
No. Nescafe, the little individual ones, you pour it in hot water. Every place. They don't have any coffee pots anyway. Even cappuccino, you get a little thing and then a little thing that you add to it, which is cappuccino. So no coffee pots.
Well, you know, now you mentioned that. We keep seeing these commercials, I'm sure you've seen them too, about, you know, how Starbucks started in one little spot and now they're all over the world. Right. Did you see any Starbucks?
In Larnaca, there was a Starbucks, yes. Okay. Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah. TJ Friday. That's really a kind of a big tourist place in the summertime. That did not. We saw McDonald's in Istanbul, I guess, too, but that was not typical. Another sort of, I can't tell you how nice it is. This sounds kind of crude, but to flush your toilet paper in the toilet, because you are not allowed to do that in either Istanbul or Cyprus.
Is it just like a porta potty then?
No, it's a regular one, but they want you to drop your tissues in a little wastebasket beside because they don't have the water and the sewage facilities are quite as strong. So there's signs all over, do not put your toilet paper in the toilet. We are watching.
That's a lousy job to have to clean up those wastebaskets.
Well, they have little plastic sacks in it. It's not quite, but it takes you a little bit to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever flush by accident?
Yes, we did, absolutely. I mean, you just, automatically, you're half awake sometimes.
And did you get reprimanded?
No, they didn't catch us, no.
No, okay.
Yeah. They don't have watchers on, but they have these intimidating signs, And occasionally there's just, you just go in, particularly in the women's bathrooms. Billy said, oh, I got only the footprints. You just go in and squat. There's just 2 footprints in the floor, and there's no toilet at all. You just squat, and she runs into that every once in a while. Yeah.
Wow. I don't think I'd like that right there.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But I mean, it's, I don't know, it's these little conveniences that we take for granted that, when you don't have them, you appreciate them more.
If you travel, you just, problems you just have to adjust. If you're over there to complain, you shouldn't be over there.
Yeah.
And if you fight with your wife at home, it'll be hell away. So, so you got to have a good relationship with your spouse.
Well, you and Billy have a very good relationship.
Because there are a lot of little things that pop up that cause problem. Oh, it didn't work, or that ATM machine didn't work. We got to go another 3 miles to find another ATM machine or whatever.
Let me ask you about that, Dan, because I know when we've been to other countries, I have not trusted the ATM machines. I didn't even see that many right where we were. But the other thing that I didn't trust was I didn't trust using the pay phones because you have to run your credit card through. And there's just something about it, I'm not trusting that much in this country, but especially in a foreign country, I just thought, I don't think so. So we either waited until we got back on the boat and used the room in our or the phone in our stateroom, or we used our cell phones. I never once used a pay phone.
I didn't see
or calling cards. You
Calling
could
cards.
use that also, that option.
I didn't see any pay phones.
Yeah.
Everyone has the little phones.
Yeah.
Even with the cards,
Yeah.
And computers at places are gone. It's all Wi-Fi. You either bring your iPad or your own computer. They've really gotten rid of all. There are a couple of cyber cafes, but most of them, those are gone. And everyone is on the iPhones too.
Yeah.
We were a little technologically ignorant on that. We didn't take our iPad. We should have, and we paid the price for that sometimes because we had a hard time finding a cyber cafe.
Like a public computer.
Use a computer,
yeah. And we're seeing in this country more and more. Did you see it over there where people are using these little contraptions to create like their own personal hotspots to get on the internet?
No.
Or it's just all the Wi-Fi is provided by the community or the business or whatever?
Every place has Wi-Fi available here.
Okay.
You just go in and whatever they do, that works.
It would be nice if we would get to that point in this country, slowly you hear about communities that are going completely Wi-Fi. Oshkosh isn't one of them, and I don't know that we ever will be, but it's nice if you can.
If you're running a hotel or restaurant, it's a lot cheaper for you, I assume, than to have all of the computer facilities and keep them working all the time. So they want to get out of that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's just a nice service to offer to your guests.
Yeah.
So, what else? I mean, did you meet any interesting
lots of,
or
and that's the
people
that's
who
the
were there?
fun to travel. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. On the plane ride from Athens to Larnaca, going to Cyprus, a big guy next to me, and finally I said, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Lisbon, Portugal. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a professional pool player. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going up to Nicosia. He said, where I got a 3-day 9-ball tournament. I said, oh. I said, how many cue sticks did you bring with you? He said, I only got 2. I said, much money on this? He said, well, I'm ranked 9th in Europe. But he said, the money over here isn't as good as it is in the States. He said, I would really like to get in your tour because there's a lot more money. I said, well, tell me about the tournament. Well, it's a 3-day event, double elimination. You keep winning, you keep playing. I said, how is it? He said, physically, we're all the same. He said, mentally, you just have to be sharp for every single, time you play. Because, you make a mistake, you're done.
Yeah.
So
you can't choke up.
You can't choke up, yeah. So he was interesting.
Yeah.
Michael Achilles had the only Harley Davidson in Paphos. And the last name Achilles, you know, that's from the Iliad. That's
Yeah.
and I couldn't. Well, I said, your last name really isn't Achilles. He said, yeah, it is. Interesting fella.
Yeah.
The Brits are intrepid travelers. And you can be in Manchester and 4 hours later you can be in Cyprus. So even for the really older people, and we're talking people in their 80s. We ran into this one lady at the hospital from Scotland, about 87 years old, mad her in hell. She says, damn it, she said, my husband's got to have a pacemaker and they got to haul him up to this other city. This could be our last tour. She says, we may have to go on cruises after this. 87.
So she was on a tour.
She was, yeah.
Yeah.
So they usually go for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, in that age, 4 hours, they take a cab from the airport and they're there. It's not that bad a trip, you know, for them. A lot of Russians over there, particularly in Cyprus. They come in huge numbers.
Now, what's the attraction there, do you think? Or did you ask anyone?
Oh yeah, money. They have money. The sun. We met a wonderful lady with 2 little children. She was on a maternity leave from St. Petersburg, and her little boy Billy thought he had rickets, but she wasn't sure, and terrible sun deficiency. And the doctor said, you got to get that kid somewhere for sun. You know, he doesn't have any vitamin D. And so she was out every day with him. She worked for the Swedish consulate in St. Petersburg, spoke perfect English. She had been an exchange student in Texas as a high school student. But she was there because of the health of her children. And we ran into 2 or 3 couples like that. Couples with 2 or 3 young kids, and just exposing them to sun every day because they had no sun. So, but the Russians are there big time. And a lot of the hotel, motel people, they all have to take conversation Russian, because they're servicing a larger number of Russians every year that come.
Now, you know, you were obviously conversing with folks. I'm sure you guys have a little bit of, you know, dialect that you know of other languages that you can speak. But it sounds to me almost like English is pretty well spoken in a lot of these areas.
We're spoiled.
Are we?
Yeah. And you know, we lived in Spain 30 years ago, and no one spoke English. So we really studied
You lived in Spain?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, back in the mid-'80s for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And put our 2 little kids in school, and no one hardly spoke English. Now, even if they don't want you to speak their language, they say, speak English to me, particularly the kids. Like the kids in Istanbul, we were out walking around and they said, hello, hi, you know, how are you? You know, wanting to practice their English.
Yeah.
So we're really spoiled. You know.
Well, that may go to, you know, why people in this country are so dead set against learning another language. I think there's a certain amount of snobbery there on the part of Americans, you know. And certainly, I mean, if you're coming to this country, you know, I would like to say, yeah, learn how to speak our language. But by the same token, when traveling to another country, unless you're in an English-speaking area, you better learn how to speak their language. But apparently everybody seems, English seems to be the universal language.
And they don't like British English. They want to speak American English.
What do you mean?
British English is very formal.
Oh, the we's and
Yeah, and they don't like, no. They want to speak American. They like slang, and they like,
yeah,
you know.
just down home kind of
They
speaking.
do, yeah.
Huh.
Particularly the kids.
Isn't that interesting?
So no, we're really spoiled. Now in Istanbul, like I had a haircut, like my short haircut. He said, I don't speak much English, but you know, I said I want a haircut and my beard and all that, and he said, yeah. And we haggled on price a little bit, and he said, that's about all the English I know. So, but he really did. You know.
So haggling on price for a haircut,
Yeah.
That's customary then to
They haggle on everything.
Is that customary everywhere?
Well, it certainly is in Turkey.
Really?
Cyprus, they don't haggle them. They go after you a little bit, but I'll give you an example. Walking down the street. Hey, where are you from? United States. Oh, where in the United States? Wisconsin. I got a brother in Wisconsin. No, he doesn't have a brother. You come into my store. Come into my store. I want to show you. I said, no, no pressure. You just got to come in and look.
Yeah.
So we go and look. Walking down the street, the guy said, come here. He said, you're doing it wrong. He said, if you say you're American, they think you're rich, because all Americans are rich. So the next time a guy says, where are you from? Say you're from Canada. He said, because they think Canadians aren't as rich and the initial price will be much lower than what it would take you 2 or 3 hours to get the price down to where.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. But we had a Turk do we said we want 12 Turkish towels. I'll take care of it. Delivered in the hotel, at the place at night at a good price. He said, I have friends, so.
You know, this business of haggling over price, you know, for products and merchandise, it sort of is confounding to the mind, because then you come back here, and I mean, we've done it when we've traveled abroad too, and we come back here and you become so used to it that you want to walk into Walmart or wherever and start trying to, you know, bargain on these prices of things, you know.
It's just a cultural thing, and for the most part, I think China would kill you, because their haggling is beyond anything you and I could ever expect.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So they're it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you went to a few different countries, and this is always hard, and I always kind of hate it when people ask this sort of question, but I'll ask it anyway.
That's right, yeah.
Did you have a favorite place that you went, or was there something unique and special about each one that made it stand out?
The most historic was to meet the Archbishop of Cyprus. Okay, Cyprus has been run basically by the archbishops for 100 of years. Now they have an elected person, and the archbishop is just the religious part. For many years, it was both. And so we were in Nicosia, which is a capital, divided between Turkey and the southern part. And it was his name day, which means the name that he was given at birth. So there's no school. And we went into his palace, really, a couple of big Mercedes outside. And here's this gigantic man with his, you know, all of the Eastern European Orthodox all have beards, long beards, and his cross, this black. He must have been 6'4" or 6'5". Just a really impressive figure. So yeah, I think meeting the Archbishop of Cyprus was kind of an unusual sort of circumstance. Another one?
Yeah.
Billy had a list of the 10 best chefs in Cyprus.
Okay.
There was one in Paphos where we were at. Finally found the place. God, we walked by it 10 times. Finally, and it was unbelievable. He says he only serves 30 meals a day. That's what he prefers. And it's all from local stuff. And it was incredible. He sat down with us, explained everything. So that was a highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that stood out as far as experiences, or anything that sort of caught you off guard or was surprising or shocking to you?
My stint in the hospital.
Now, you didn't mention that in any of your postcards.
Well, I'm not over there to complain. Okay. You know, we're walking, and Cyprus is just an archaeological maze.
Yeah.
You know, one civilization on top of the other. And my right knee was really starting to bother me. It was really bothering me.
Okay.
So I asked the lady, I said, do you know an orthopedic guy in town? She said, yeah, there's a special hospital for tourists. I'll call. Got an appointment 9 o'clock the next morning. The guy said, what's that other knee? You have surgery in that? I said, yeah. How long ago? About a year and a half ago. He said, he said, you're a common patient because your right leg, your good leg, has been compensating for your bad leg. And he said, you have inflammation of the right leg, knee. Looks pretty bad. I want to put you in overnight. And we're going to work on that fluid. I thought, oh, God, I don't want to stay in overnight. So they came and took my blood pressure, and it was screaming, 185/85. The guy said, have you had high blood pressure before? I said, no. I said, I get mad once in a while, but, well, how come it's so high? I said, probably because I'm in a hospital in a foreign country, and I got a bad knee.
And
but
you're in pain.
Oh, yeah. But it was 185 for, oh, we got to check your heart. Billy said, I don't want you to have a stroke. So they gave me I'm on blood pressure medicine as a result of that. And then he said, come back in a week. So I came back in a week, and my right foot was really swollen. And I thought maybe it was because of blood pressure medicine. That happens sometimes. And I said, well, my right foot is really swollen. Well, I got to do a test on that. Okay. He said, you got gout. I said, I don't have gout. Yeah, he said, you do. He said, are you drinking a lot of red wine? Stop drinking red wine. I said, what? So I still don't think I had gout. I had, a couple glasses with my duck the other day for Christmas. So anyway, but the bill, Cheryl, was incredible. We're talking $2,800 American.
$2,800.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, my insurance will pay for it when I get back, so I had to put it on a credit card. Oof. And that kind of put our expenses down a little bit.
I guess so.
Yeah. So I called my bank and said, you got to put more in, and they did. They were very gracious. But yeah, and I'm laying there in the middle of the night, and I've got just a T-shirt and my pair of shorts is what I came in there with. And I'm getting kind of cold. I wonder if I got any blankets. So I went around the room. There were no blankets. And finally, I said, "Could I get a blanket?" Oh yeah, I guess you can have a blanket. So she came in, and put a blanket over me. A wonderful place,
Yeah.
and it was a place strictly for tourists who have their own insurance. You know, not the European Union one. It's free for if, but the lady said if you'd have gone there, you'd have been there a couple of days, and they probably wouldn't have done anything for you. So you got in right away, but the cash register is ringing all the time. You're in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I would say that was my most unexpected experience. I didn't plan to be in a hospital in Cyprus.
Okay. All right. I guess we're being told we've got 30 minutes left in our show.
Well, we did that one quickly.
That did go quickly. He was motioning, and I'm like,
So this was
what's
my
the
bucket
problem?
list. This was number one.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you for asking.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like you had a really good
Yeah,
trip.
Yep. Now we're deciding where we're going to go next.
Okay.
The 2 months was about right. You know, what will we do? So we don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, as I mentioned at the outset of tonight's show, we have just recently finished 10 years on the air, and you know, that's a milestone, I think, for any
Absolutely.
program like
You bet.
this. But all good things must come to an end. And so sadly, I do have to announce that this is going to be our last year. Incidentally, this is our last show.
program.
And, you know, this is something that we thought we'd spend a little time tonight
Absolutely.
talking about this. And the tables are getting turned on me, as I understand, because
Yeah.
you want to interview me.
I do,
so-
and do it in a gracious, complimentary way. But you know, I haven't been on this show for 10 years, so I want to kind of go back.
Half that time,
Have I?
though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of go back and pick your mind a little bit and ask if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope I'll have the answers for you.
Okay. When did you start On Oshkosh? And you said 10 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, we started, I think we taped our first show probably in September of 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has it always been named On Oshkosh?
Yes,
Yeah.
always.
A clever title. How did you come up with that?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really remember how we came up with it. You know, this show started when Melody Bleckel got off the Common Council.
Okay.
She and I were friends back then, and, you know, I said, you should really do something, you know, with your knowledge of the city and everything. And I've got the media knowledge, and she had the political knowledge, and I had a little political knowledge, but certainly she was the political mind behind this. And so we put our heads together and decided to start this show. We were just, I mean, jotting a lot of names down on paper, and I honestly can't remember back to how the name, how it came to be this, but it did.
Just in retrospect, I think it was a very clever title, and it kind of caught the essence of what this show was, because it really was On Oshkosh. So I was just curious as to that.
But you know, it's evolved over the years too.
True.
I mean, it kind of started out just sort of being a political thing
Sure.
because she was so politically involved. And over the years, I mean, I wanted it to be something that truly had the eye on the whole city of, you know, everything
Gotcha.
that goes on in Oshkosh, not just the political machine that makes up Oshkosh.
Do you recall your first program?
Yes.
Do you?
The first guest was Jim Simmons, as a
Oh,
matter of fact.
really?
Yeah. And I think we were probably talking about elections
Okay.
because that's his thing. And I can't remember if we had just come off of an election or if we were probably preparing for a fall election. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you know, we were talking about elections in some shape, form, or fashion. So he was our first guest.
This is a tougher question. Do you have any ballpark figure of how many programs you've taped in 10 years?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, we tried to do 2 shows. Well, taping 2 shows every time we'd tape,
Right.
and taping twice a month. So
You could do it pretty quickly, couldn't
4
you?
shows a month.
Right. 12 months times 10.
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course there were a few times when
Of
we
course,
just did
sure.
one,
Yep.
or like during this 2 months that you and I have been off,
Sure.
we've been repeating some shows. But I mean, pretty much there's been a different show a week. during that time.
Do you have all the tapes?
I have most, if not all. When this show first started, we taped the shows on Super VHS tapes. That's the equipment that they used here. And probably within that first year and a half or so, they switched, they bought different equipment, and the tapes were no longer used. Then everything went on DVDs. So certainly I have all the DVDs.
But in 2 different formats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got all the DVDs. I probably have a lot of the shows, if not all, that were on SVHS. But, you know, those Super VHS tapes don't play in regular videotape
understand.
players,
Yeah,
so, you know, I don't know. But somehow I could probably get them off.
Okay. My background is history and archives. Any thought about donating these to a historical repository or something to be preserved, to be used by other people, different times, 20 years from now, whatever?
I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
In what sense would they use them?
I think this is sort of a look at Oshkosh and the community for 10 years. If I'm doing research on Oshkosh maybe 10 years from now or something, and I know that there's a program called On Oshkosh, that all the tapes are at a repository that are indexed that I could go in and use, that would be good for my research.
Well, that's an interesting thought, and I hadn't thought about that, honestly, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
You know, I can maybe look into something
Yeah.
like that.
I'm not sure, you know, in a way the State Historical Society of Wisconsin would be the logical place. I don't think the library in town or the museum in town would be interested in that sort of thing, but I don't know that. But anyway, I think it's something you ought to think about.
Well, and if I can just sort of, you know, piggyback on that a little bit, you know, over the last probably 3 or 4 years for sure, I have been asked quite a bit, is this show on YouTube? And you know, we put a few up there and somehow they disappeared. I don't know what happened to them.
Okay.
They were there one day, the next day they were just gone. And it said that the user had pulled them off and we didn't pull them off. So I'm not sure exactly what happened. But it's very time consuming, especially when you're not real technologically savvy, to get them on YouTube. That is still something that I would like to do at some point. And so if that happens, then of course there will be, you know, the history there too.
Another option
So-
would be UWO, their TV or film operations where they would like to do maybe an edited version of each year using your tapes. Something they could go in and edit and put together. Just a thought. But I do think they have use beyond just storage.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you.
Yep. I guess you kind of hit at this, but I'm going to do it. What factors led you to start On Oshkosh? You kind of mentioned it was political.
Yeah, it was. I you know, I felt that Melanie should continue doing something.
Okay.
You know, despite our falling out over a period of time, I still think that she has a very great mind when it comes to local politics. And I felt then that she should really do something with her knowledge, with her insight, rather than just saying, well, I've given up my however many years on the council she did and sort of ride off into the sunset. I felt that you know, should be encapsulated and used in some other way.
Okay, she was your first co-host. How many other co-hosts have you had in 10 years?
3.
3.
She was the
Okay,
first.
okay.
Then she stepped aside, and Tony Palmieri came in.
And I replaced Tony.
And Tony was here for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, but then he got elected to the council.
Right.
And we thought that might not be the best thing in the world for him to be doing the show and interviewing guests where he would then get 2 kicks at the cat with some of these guests.
Yeah.
And plus he was also getting busy on the council. And so he stepped down and you came in, and so you've been here. So Tony was probably here 2.5 years then, because I think Melanie was here maybe 2.5 years. Or I don't know,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
lost
But
track.
anyway,
But you've
3.
been here 5 years.
Right, that's
So
amazing.
you've
I
been
had-
the longest.
I had no idea it was that long.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about On Oshkosh and its relationship to OCMS. Explain to the viewers all of the volunteer work and the crew that's needed to put this program on the air?
Well, OCMS is Oshkosh Community Access, or Oshkosh Community Media Services, which is the community access, cable access division of the city. And I have to say, as a city, I think we are really very fortunate to have this, because not every city does. And so that's first and foremost. You know, the people who put on these shows, you know, I mean, I'm the producer of it. It's my responsibility to get a co-host if I want one, to get a crew, to run the cameras, to run the controls in the control room. The city provides the training, and there is a nominal cost for training, but it's my responsibility as the local producer to pretty much do everything. I book the guests, I mean, I do everything, and they just provide the training.
And this is all volunteer?
It is all volunteer. None of us is paid for this. And so I've been very grateful and feel very blessed for the folks who have worked on this show with me.
We've had wonderful crews.
We have.
We really have.
Right to this very moment, we do.
Yeah. Little editorial here. Doesn't this policy kind of hamper more public affair programs on OCMS rather than making it easier that you have to get your own crew?
Well, I think, you know, I mean, we've seen city budgets really get cut a lot over the years, and OCMS just recently lost one of its longtime employees here due to budgetary reasons. I don't know that they would have the finances to do much more. I'll tell you one gripe that I've had over the years with this, and it has nothing to do with the staff here at OCMS, because they've been wonderful and I have nothing but good things to say about them. My complaint, or what has kind of stuck in my craw over the years is, if you wanted to get on the radio station here, and I'm assuming this is still the case, I don't know for certain, but I know when the radio station here, the public or the community access radio station started up, WOCT, you had to pay to get your program on there. And, you know, I'm already laying out money for tapes or DVDs or what have you. And, I mean, in the very early days, I was paying for training for people, and I just couldn't continue doing that all the time. And so, you know, there's just only so far that your money goes. So I never put the program on the radio.
Any idea what the cost was, I suppose?
It was cost prohibitive for me. I don't
understand.
remember offhand what it was.
Yeah.
But the other part of it that I guess has been a little bit annoying to me is, you know, like the League of Women Voters. Now, not to bash them, but that's just the first example that sort of comes to my mind. The League of Women Voters, when they do their candidate forums, they don't have to provide their own crew to tape the shows, and they're doing the same
thing we're doing.
The same kind of community service that we're doing. And so those little things have always kind of stuck in my craw, because it seems like there's a double standard there. And yet the rest of us have to kind of do it all on our own. And in some ways that's good. You know, I think you're more resourceful then, but it just seems like there's a little bit of a double standard.
I want to talk about guests.
Okay.
Can you recall some of your most rewarding programs?
Oh, gosh. Boy. No, not really. I mean, I think anything that someone has benefited from, I know this sounds kind of cliche, but anything that someone has benefited from in one way or another has been rewarding for me to do. I've always enjoyed doing the candidate interviews. I think that has helped people see a better side of candidates than what the Candidates Forum does, because those are just very standard questions. And again, I'm not trying to beat up on the league, but they're very standard questions. You don't get to actually ask one-on-one of someone.
They even have a take-home question.
Yeah, they get take-home questions. No, we never gave guests questions. I mean, I don't even know what you're asking me. So, you know, we just never really did that.
You really lose originality, I think.
Well, and it doesn't give you the opportunity to ask, you know, a sitting candidate, an incumbent, about any aspect of their voting record or anything really. I mean, you just have to ask these very vanilla, very blanket, standardized questions, and I don't think that you really get to the heart of who a candidate really is, whereas that's something that we have been
I
able
don't think
to
we're
offer.
unfair, but we certainly ask tough questions, and we should.
Yeah, we did.
How else can you determine whether you want to vote for somebody?
Yeah, and there have been other shows that have done similar type things. Well, not shows, but other candidate forums where they have been more direct with some of their questions, some of the things that the schools have done, and so forth.
That's right. Good point.
You know, so
Okay, if you can't come up with some really good ones, do a couple of difficult ones jump out at you? Really, a couple of difficult interviews?
yeah. Political candidates that maybe I just really, really couldn't stand their politics. Or the guests where, and this is through no fault of their own, they just were very nervous and they would give yes and no answers and then they would sit there and it was like, my God, we've got 30 minutes to
Right.
fill
What
or
do
we've
we
got
do?
an hour to fill.
Yeah.
Give me something. And it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is, after a little bit, you know, I think we're very easy to talk to, and I think these folks, after a while, just warmed up. They forgot that the cameras were there, which is a very easy thing to forget.
It is,
You know,
yeah.
you just forget that they're there, and they warmed up and they settled down, and then they gave very good interviews. But those were tough.
Without naming names, I have images of a couple who would sit like this during the whole interview.
Yeah.
And I joked once we ought to have a mirror underneath the table so we can see what the person is saying. Because
Yes.
their heads never went up.
I can remember
Yeah,
one
I'm
in
not gonna mention
particular.
names,
Right,
but,
right.
Those ones stick in my mind. Many of your programs have centered on local government issues, city government, county government, school board. So my question is, how has civility changed in city government and school board in the last 10 years?
I think it's gotten much worse. I think it has gotten much worse. You know, and I think the blogs have had a lot to do with that, especially people's ability to post a lot of anonymous things. And we've disagreed actually on the reasonableness and the reasons for a certain amount of anonymity.
Right.
I still think that a certain amount of anonymity, depending on what you're doing or what you're saying, I think a certain amount of anonymity is good. For example, like in whistleblowing cases and things like that. But, you know, I do think that in the world of politics and blogs and so forth, I think that the anonymity really causes a lot of very uncivil discourse.
Maybe I didn't ask that correctly. Don't you think the school board in particular behaves much better than it did with its current members than it did, say, 5 years ago?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In that, yes,
And
certainly.
in some ways with the Common Council as well.
Well, you've gotten rid of a lot of the negative
Right.
people
Right.
who were creating divide
Right.
in their own sort of way.
Now, they've all taken the civility pledge. Do you think that's the reason?
I don't think that's the reason. You know, because there were certain members on the school board and or common council who took that civility pledge and continued to be and still are in their own shape, form, or fashion some of the most uncivil people that you'd want to meet with some of their comments and some of their personal attacks on people. And so, no, I don't think the civility pledge or the civility project has had anything to do with that.
Okay. I would have been disappointed if you would have answered that
So I passed that
differently.
test.
Okay, we've kind of done, now we're going to kind of turn to the present.
Oh boy, okay.
And these are not meant to invade your privacy, but...
You know, you see I'm not sweating yet, right?
No, you're not. We're crying. Why, after 10 years, has Cheryl Hentz decided to pull the plug on On Oshkosh?
Well, I kind of mentioned that already. You know, I'm right in the midst now of a huge professional project
Okay.
that we're losing our tablecloth here.
That's me.
Things are going to fall on the floor soon. I'm in the middle of a really huge professional project, and that has taken a great deal of time. Now, granted, that's going to be up fairly soon. and it's just a one-shot thing. But there are some professional things too that I want to do that this will allow me a little bit more time to do. Also, our director Mike Domke has recently gotten a promotion at work, and that's going to require his working evenings. So I'd have to find another director. I've got some other very great crew members with Amy Locke and her sons. They're all from the same family, though, and so I would need to get other folks in here as well, because if they go on vacation or God forbid something comes up, then we're really kind of sunk. And that's not to say it's Mike's fault or it's their fault or it's my fault, or it's just a whole collective thing that I had to kind of sit back and say, you know, maybe this is best right now. And I'm not ruling out that I won't do something in the future, you know, but for right now, this seems to be the best thing to do.
Was it a difficult decision?
It was extremely difficult. I shed many tears over this decision. I did a lot of prayerful soul searching. This discussed it with my partner extensively. This talked to you about it. Talked to the crew. This has been really tough. And you know, as I sit here right now, taping the last one, it's emotional. It's difficult. It's sort of surreal. You're not sure that it doesn't necessarily seem real, and I don't know. But when you weigh everything, the reasons to end it seem to be greater than the reasons to keep it going.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. You can toot your horn on. What are you most proud about on On Oshkosh? What do you think you've contributed?
What I hear from people time and time again is that this program, and you and I in particular, have given people a voice. You know, they talk to other forms of the media in this community, and they may get it wrong in their headline, or they may get a quote wrong in the story, or a soundbite may not come out right. But here, we don't do any editing on this show. I mean, it airs as it happened. And they get to speak their mind and say their piece. And so I think we've given people a voice, you know. And I think, frankly, we've made a difference in a lot of people's lives. We've educated people. I think we've entertained people in some ways. We've enlightened them. And so I think all of those things are positive influences that this show has made.
I agree. I think a couple that stick out for me was the warming shelter. I thought we were promoting that before anyone else knew about it, and we kept promoting it. I think that would be one example. You probably have others, but that's one that comes to mind more recently. We also were able to have breaking news on things that happened with the school district. You know, so I just think that you know, we've had a lot of firsts over the years, and even if it wasn't first, it doesn't always necessarily have to be first in order to be something that is really better or of really outstanding quality. I think county government was treated very fairly here too. I don't think anyone else deals much with county government, but I thought you were particularly, and I thought Mark Harris was a wonderful guest to have on because he kept us up to date. And the sheriffs, both of them, were good. So I think that was another contribution.
And Mark Roloff, as city manager, you know, he has been on countless times. I will miss talking to all these folks, really. And but you know, we're still going to be around in one form or fashion, and I'll talk about that in my little closing moments here, which I guess
I don't know how much time we have.
She's telling me about 4 minutes. So, do you have another quick question or no?
Well, how can OCMS encourage other programs like this to get going?
I don't know. You know, it was funny when I told them that we were ending it. They were pretty shocked and surprised and sad, and said that they have always pointed to this show when other people come in to say, thinking about starting a show, You know, he said they've always pointed to this show as being an example of what people can do if they really kind of set their minds to it and they have a vision of what they want to do and where they want to go. And so I'm very proud of that,
You
too.
should be, yeah.
And, well, and
Yeah, yeah.
we're all a part of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we all, that's true.
You know,
Yeah.
so. All right, well, hopefully I can make it through this. I want to say that in closing, it is with a great deal of sadness that, and I wrote this out because I knew I couldn't remember it. You know, it's a great deal of sadness and yet some excitement and anticipation that, you know, of what the future holds, that we bring On Oshkosh to a conclusion. And, you know, as we've been talking about tonight, we've been on the air for just over 10 years. A lot has changed in those 10 years, but it has been a tremendous journey, one that I, for one, will always cherish. I want to thank the staff here at Oshkosh Community Access, Oshkosh Community Media Services for their assistance along the way. They've always been quick to help out, very responsive to our needs with whatever we ever needed, whether it was from a production assistance standpoint or with training. You know, and you know, you ask about people starting shows. For anyone who wants to start a show and pursue something here on cable access, there is tremendous talent here at OCMS, and they can help you with whatever you need, or at least point you in the right direction. I want to thank the various crew members that we've had here over the years, not only to those that are still with us, but to those who have moved on to other things. Some have left the area. One has actually passed on, but I have a very deep appreciation to each one, and I feel very honored to have worked with every one of them. This show would never have been possible without them. And I want to thank you and the other co-hosts that I've had. I've been very privileged and honored to have worked with you guys over the years, and I think we've learned something from each other. You know, I've become a better host, I think, and a better interviewer as a result of working with you and working with Tony and Melanie and so forth. Thanks to the dozens of guests we've been privileged to have on during the last 10 years, and while we've certainly not always seen eye to eye with some of them, especially those running for office or serving in an elected position, every single guest that we've ever had has contributed something special and unique and has helped to make the show what it is. And certainly, but not least, I want to thank all of you, the viewers who have tuned in, whether it was to one, some, or every one of our shows during the last 10 plus years. You know, we've sought to inform, educate, enlighten, entertain, and I think we've done all that, as I just mentioned. At least I hope we have. And I have to say that I think we all, myself included, have learned many things along the way. I would also be remiss if I didn't say that while some of the friendships have changed over the years, there have also been new acquaintances and friendships that have been formed as a result of On Oshkosh, some of which have become very deep and which I hope and believe will last a lifetime. I know this has probably come to a shock for many people, but it's just one chapter of On Oshkosh that is closing. There will continue to be an On Oshkosh presence on the internet and via Facebook and our blog, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll have a little more time now to do something more with that. So please, as news or events come your way that you want us to promote, send it to me, ionoshkosh@gmail.com, and we'll get it out there. And as I said, I'm also leaving open the possibility that we might do something in the future, just on a small basis, 1 or 2 episodes or whatever. We just won't be part of the regular weekly lineup here at Channel 2. So many thanks again to everyone for the last 10 years and the contributions everyone has made. For Dan, the crew, Happy New Year to all of you. Take care. God bless. And remember, just because we won't be in your homes every week, we will still have our On Oshkosh. Take care.
Yep.